Welcome to the Neutral Zone. Today, we're going to be tier ranking the teams heading into the 2024 season. Obviously, the ACC adds 3 teams, SMU, Cal, and Stanford, to the conference. The ACC just went divisionless last year, so it's going to be kind of interesting to have an uneven amount of teams, 17 teams heading into this year. A lot of parity in the ACC. I don't think there's one true favorite, so it's going to be fun kind of to see where your head is at, where my head is at, as well as the comment section as far as where we place teams. But as always, if you're new to the channel, please like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell. We already did the SEC and the Big Ten tier ranking videos, so check those out if you haven't already. But, Dad, let's get right into it. We're going to start tier ranking these teams. You went first in yesterday's video, so I'll go first today. Without any hesitation, I'm going to put Clemson here at the top at conference favorite. Obviously, I'm a Clemson fan. A lot of people might think that's biased, but I'm going to caveat this by saying I don't think Clemson is a national championship contending team next year, but I think we are in contention for the ACC. I find it hard to believe that there's 3 teams better than Clemson in the ACC next year, so I'm going to put them here.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you, I think the ACC is one of the tougher conferences to do this with. One, because I think they have a bunch of teams that are probably between the middle 3 categories. And really, and I ask you guys to kind of weigh in on this one specifically, because everybody probably is going to have this different. I'm going to start, though, with conference favorite as well. I think coming back next year, I have Miami as a conference favorite. Again, bringing back their top 2 running backs, top 2 receivers, and getting an upgraded quarterback, adding Cam Ward while Tyler Van Dyke transferred out. I think this is going to be a team that's going to make some noise in the ACC next year.
I agree. I think Miami has to be here. We just did their preview last week. We talked about what they're bringing in. Obviously, a top 5 quarterback in Cam Ward. One of the best kind of recruiting cycles in the ACC. I think they led the ACC in recruiting the last 2 seasons. If not, they were in the top 2. So they're definitely going to be a young, scary team for anybody that has to play them. Luckily, my Clemson Tigers do not play them this year. I know they beat us last year. So moving on to the next one, I'm going to go to the bottom of the list. I'm going to go dumpster fire. I'm going to go Virginia. Obviously, Tony Elliott, former offensive coordinator for Clemson, became the head coach of Virginia. A lot of that, or not a lot, but, that big tragedy they had either last year or at the end of 2022, the shooting they had on campus kind of put a lot of spotlight on their program. They went 3-9 this year and 2-6 in conference play. So I think this team has to be on the bottom of the list. Obviously, we add 3 teams to the ACC, but I just think that this team is in a really bad situation right now. I know they got in Chris Tyree from Notre Dame, the transfer from Notre Dame. So he's probably going to help offensively, but there's only so much you can do. So I'm going to go Virginia here at dumpster fire.
Man, I can go anywhere. Right now, I'm going to take the easy pick because, again, like I said, this conference is very hard, and I'm kind of making this up in my head as we're going. I'm also going to go dumpster fire, and I'm going to put Wake Forest in dumpster fire. So 4-8 last year. I don't see a reason to believe there's going to be a vast amount of improvement. So, yeah, that's Wake Forest dumpster fire.
Okay, so for this one, I'm going to go ahead and fill out respectable. And for respectable, I'm going to put Duke here. Obviously, Duke had a really good year this year. They finished 8-5, but they started off the year really well. Obviously, beat my Clemson Tigers in week 1, beat Notre Dame, hosting Notre Dame, and then ultimately, to their demise, Riley Leonard got hurt, dropped a couple of games. Then they had a few transfers out. Then you bring in the backup quarterback from Texas, and Malik. Believe his name is Malik, right?
Yes.
Malik, yeah. So you bring him in to kind of shore up that quarterback position, but they still lost a lot. So they lose their head coach, obviously. So I think that's going to be a major hit in Mike Elko. So I'm going to put respectable here. I don't think they're going to be a few years away. I think they can still sneak up on some teams, but I'm going to go respectable for Duke.
Well, this is, like I said, this is very tough. I'm going to go also respectable Virginia Tech. I think Virginia Tech has a good team. This is a very good program. They seem to always have winning seasons. They were 7-6 last year, and by winning seasons, I just mean not a losing season, but a little bit down from where they were. I think they're more than one piece away, but I don't think they're a few years away. I think they'll be a respectable team. I suspect they'll be about 7-6, 8-5 next year as well.
Okay, I'm gonna put another team up here at conference favorite.
Okay.
I'm going to go Louisville. I think Louisville, I don't know why I keep doing that. I think Louisville has to be up here in this kind of upper echelon of the conference. They don't lose a bunch. Obviously made a run last year. Again, I don't know how much of a factor it was with their schedule. I know early on I said that, but I don't think this is a bad team. I still think this team can compete in the ACC. Again, I think this conference is very, very balanced. I don't think there's one team that stands out above everyone. So I like Louisville up top. We have to have 4 people in one conference. I mean, in one tier eventually. So I'm going to like Louisville here up at the top.
Yeah. So the question becomes obviously, what do we do with that fourth team? I'm going to, for now, as this continues to kind of play out, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move Florida State to one piece away.
Wow.
Yeah, I think there is a massive turnover with this team. So the question is, how much do we believe in Norvell and his ability to retool this team? I haven't seen it. You've lost, I think, everything that made this team special last year. When we talk about Coleman, when we talk about obviously Jordan Travis, Trey Benson, and we can keep going down the list of players that they lost. Johnny Wilson. So I think this is more of a. I could see if somebody said I'm putting them in conference favorite. Obviously, they went undefeated in the conference last year and won the conference championship. But right now, with all the turnover, I'm going to put them in one piece away.
So I would personally have them at conference favorite. That's why it's good to have us kind of taking turns here. Just because I think they're bringing in. Go ahead.
And I would have them fourth.
I would have them fourth as well.
But so that's where I say I think we fill out with 3, and then we kind of figure out the other 2 where what that means.
For sure. All right, so I'm going to go a few years away here, and I'm going to go Cal. I think Cal has really been down for like the last decade or so. I don't think they're a dumpster fire of a program. They went 6-7 in a very tough Pac-12 conference last year. They went 4-5 in conference, so it's not like they lost all their conference games. Obviously, they had a few competitive games against upper teams in the conference, so I like them at a few years away. I don't think they're going to come into the conference of the ACC and just contend for the title right away. But I don't think they're going to be a cakewalk or a pushover either. So I like them at a few years away.
So going one piece away, I'm going to go North Carolina State. North Carolina State had a really good season last year, went 9-4. Looked good. And I think they're in the upper echelon right now of ACC teams. And this is a team that's been able to do this multiple times throughout their career. Obviously, this is the school of a couple of very good players. Torrey Holt, obviously. But this was a very good team, respectable team. And I think they're in the upper echelon of the ACC next year.
Yeah, I agree. I do think that they should be up here. They have one of the better defenses in the ACC.
Yep.
So I'm not mad at the pick at all. I'm going to put another team under one piece away. This one might surprise some people, but I feel like they have to be here. I'm going to go SMU. I think SMU needs to be up here. 11-3 in their conference last year. Obviously, this is going to be a big step up. But when I just look at the other teams in these categories, I favor them over a lot of these teams. Obviously, you have a situation where a lot of these people have 4 and 5 stars, and SMU isn't really in that type of situation. But we see a program like Tulane competing with Power Fives for the last 2 years. So I like SMU at one piece away, but I don't think they're in the same tax bracket as Florida State. So we're going to have to kind of assess the list at the end, because I think Florida State is leaps and bounds ahead of them. But we obviously still have 6 teams to put on this list, so we'll kind of figure it out.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Just to kind of, I guess, somewhat close out dumpster fires, I'm going to put Stanford. I think that's kind of an easy pick. It's hard. Academic standards at Stanford, it's hard for them to get recruits. And then they've been able to do it in years past when they've had guys like Christian McCaffrey but it's a tough fight for them. They were 3-9 last year, 2-7 in the Pac-12. And I don't think it's going to get any easier for them moving to the ACC. So I have them dumpster fire.
Okay. So I'm going to add another team to dumpster fire.
So
to have 4 teams.
I'm going to have
dumpster fire. I'm going to go Syracuse. I think Syracuse has to be on this list. Dino Babers was on the hot seat the entire year. I'm not sure if he actually got fired. He might have got fired at the end of the year, now that I'm thinking about it. Like 5 of their 7 losses came by blowouts. I know they had like the first 3 weeks of the season. I was so nervous as a Clemson fan to play them, because I was like, I think they started off like 4-0 or something. And I was like, we got to play an undefeated Syracuse, because they like blasted Colgate. They blasted like 2 other teams, and then they just went on a losing streak. And Syracuse, I'm not gonna say historically, but over the last 5 years, they weren't a pushover. They competed with Clemson multiple times. I think last year we went to Clemson, if I'm not mistaken. We barely won that game. I mean, we went to Syracuse and barely won that game. Cade Klubnik got a really fluke roughing the unnecessary roughness call on the sideline to make us complete the drive or continue with the drive. So Syracuse should have beat Clemson last year, to be completely honest. So I do think that this team could be a lot better, and they are in the downward trajectory, big time. So I think they have to be a dumpster fire.
I would. So this is the first time I think we're going to have a true disagreement. Okay. I would move or switch Syracuse with Pitt. I think Pitt is a true dumpster fire. I think Syracuse, again, a team that went 6-7. They are bringing over Kyle McCord, the transfer from Ohio State, won 11 games with them. I think Pitt is going to be bad again next year. I think they're going to be a 3-4 win team next year. There's nothing there that makes me believe that they're about to make a drastic jump up. But like I said, I would have moved Syracuse to a few years away. And then Pitt to again, you don't have to change.
Well, we're going to have to move it at some point. We can only have four for two of them.
But yeah, I'd have Pitt as my dumpster fire team.
Okay, so I'm going to go with kind of the easy choice here. I'm going to go North Carolina at respectable. Obviously, I think this is a perfect term for them. They're losing a generational quarterback. Obviously, you have Mac Brown, a great college football coach, but I just think Drake May was everything for this team. So I think losing him is going to show this year. I would expect them to take a step back. They were 8-5. I'd be surprised if they were, I wouldn't be surprised if they were a 6-6 team next year. I know they're bringing over the quarterback from Texas A&M. I don't think he's a Drake May, so I don't think he's going to be in that same realm as him. So I do think they're going to take a bit of a step back. So I think respectable is still a middle-of-the-road team in the ACC.
Yeah, so the tough part is two teams left, both of them 7-6 last year. I honestly, and I'll just do this one at a time. I'm going to go Georgia Tech a few years away. So a good season, especially by Georgia Tech standards. They have been down for a long time, ever since really they went to triple option. They would catch teams by surprise. But 7-6 for Georgia Tech, 5-3 in the ACC was really good. Really, they were a team that, again, was no easy win as they have been in the past. So I while I do not think they're close, I don't think they're at the level of the teams that are respectable. All credit due to Georgia Tech, and if they can keep this going, keep this upward trajectory going, they could be a good team.
Okay, so you moved
Syracuse up.
You moved Syracuse up, so I'm gonna move Georgia Tech. I'm gonna put Boston College at a few years away, and I'm gonna move Georgia Tech to respectable. The reason why, let me state my case. So I think Georgia Tech has to move up because they're not a recruiting powerhouse, but based on the year they had last year, this is their second or third year being out of the triple option kind of thing. So they beat a Miami, who we have at conference favorite. I don't know how much Georgia Tech is losing, but they beat a Miami. They lost by Georgia by 8. They lost to Louisville by 5.
Right.
They lost to Ole Miss by 25, so that was a big loss. They beat a Wake Forest. They lose to Boston College by 15. They beat North Carolina by 4. They beat Virginia by 30. They beat Syracuse by 10. So when I just look at Georgia Tech in relation to Boston College, even though Boston College and Georgia Tech finished with the same record, Georgia Tech's in-conference record was 5-3, while Boston College's was 3-5.
Yeah.
So I just think when you're looking at tier ranking ACC teams, Georgia Tech was very successful against ACC teams, and even in the 3 games they lost in the ACC, only one of them was a blowout. You obviously lose to Louisville, who ended up going to the ACC title game, and then you beat a North Carolina, you beat a Syracuse, you beat a Wake Forest, you beat a Boston College. So everybody that you've beaten is in a few years away or dumpster fire. So I feel like Georgia Tech has to be a little bit higher. I still don't know how I feel about Florida State being.
Yeah, I was going to say, okay, let's play that out. If you move Florida State up to conference favorites, what would you do, or who would you move to one piece away from respectable?
So if we did this, it'd have to be Duke. I feel like it would have to be Duke. It'd have to be either Duke or North Carolina. And we could say North Carolina is a quarterback away, but it's kind of hard to say that because
quarterback is such a
and Drake May is a top 5 quarterback.
They also Tez is also leaving, so it's not like they're but yeah, I mean, so I am cool. And if we just said Florida State, I move Florida State down because of the unknown. And like I said, but I am comfortable with them moving up. I think deservedly if we put respect on Norvell that he's going to be able to rebuild this team, we've seen what he did in the transfer portal last year, bringing players over. If we say, hey, he'll be able to redo that again, then I think you got to move Florida State up. But like I said, they lost so much of what made them a good team last year. Yes, they're bringing in DJU, and I think they've actually done pretty good in the portal. So I could easily, and I'm sure fans, and I'm sure Florida State fans, if they find this, are going to say that we are absolutely crazy for not having them not only probably as a conference championship contender, but as, you know, one of the 2 or 3 teams that should be the favorites. But like I said, it's just, to me, it's the unknown. So we saw, and I want to caveat this for Florida State fans, we saw what it looked like when a lot of those players that made them successful last year didn't play in that Georgia game. But I will also caveat and say, yes, they are bringing a lot of players in from the transfer portal. But I mean, Georgia could have hung 70 on them easily.
Well, they probably could have scored 80. They had like 67 points or something.
Well, and that's what, so that is not indicative of a team that I'm going to call a conference champion that looks strong coming back when you take off exactly the guys that to me made them successful. That's just kind of my thoughts on it. That was what made me move them down a tier. If they had looked a little bit more respectable, I'm not saying, hey, you had to win, but hey, we lose by maybe 17. Okay. Then, okay, you can kind of feel confident in some of what they have coming back. And we've seen, no knock, I know you're a big fan, but we've seen the ups and downs with DJU. You know, he has not always looked like a standout quarterback. This isn't, to me, Cam Ward going to Miami looks like, hey, that's probably going to be a home run. DJU, not saying he's not going to be a home run at Florida State, but I'm going to tell you, I wouldn't put money on that. Like, that's not something I'd be willing to bet on. So I think they're a little bit more shaky with their transfers. And then, like I said, what we saw in that Georgia game just doesn't give a lot of confidence that this team coming back with those players missing is going to be ready to compete.
Yeah, let us know in the comment section how you guys think about what you guys think about our tier list. We're gonna be doing the Big 12 tomorrow, so we're gonna continue along doing these, and obviously Sunday at 9 p.m. Eastern, we're gonna be tier ranking all of the teams heading into next year. It'll be a bit of a speed run, obviously, because we're gonna be doing over 100 teams, but just kind of giving our thoughts on where the college football landscape stands today, heading into next year. So it's gonna be super fun. So if you haven't already, check out our live show. Also, if you haven't already, like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you don't miss an upload. We're trying to continue to push up the subscriber numbers so we can do another giveaway at 2,000 subscribers. Thank you guys so much for those of you guys who helped us get to 1,000. The community is growing fast, and we appreciate you guys so much. We will see you guys tomorrow during the Big 12 tier ranker. Peace out, everybody.